Hello everyone, this is the designer behind School's Crochet Corner, Sam, and today I have a fun and super cute free pattern tutorial for you all, which is the Mini Sprout Buddy. This little guy is super quick to make, and you guessed it, he is also a no-sew pattern, so look out all you market preppers. To crochet your own mini sprout buddy, you will need a worsted weight yarn, and I use Premier Basic Worsted in the colors white, light mauve, fern, and mahogany. You will also need a size F or 3.75mm crochet hook, 8 inches or 20 centimeters of black crochet thread, polyester fiberfill stuffing, scissors, a set of 12mm safety eyes, a stitch marker, yarn needle, and a 2-inch or 5cm round wooden or cardboard circle. Just a note here, in this tutorial I am using the yarn under technique. If you would like a full tutorial on how to crochet this technique, I will leave a link up above to a video tutorial. But let's go ahead and grab our crochet hooks and our yarn and go ahead and start crocheting our mini sprout buddy. First, we are going to start with crocheting our pot. So with our white yarn and our crochet hook, 6 single crochet in a magic ring. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we can go ahead and close our magic ring by pulling on the yarn tail, and we have now completed round 1. For round 2, we will increase in each stitch around. Just a note, I like using stitch markers to mark the beginning stitch of each round. It just makes crocheting in the round a lot easier. So we've completed our first increase stitch, second increase stitch, third increase stitch, fourth increase stitch, fifth increase stitch, and then sixth increase stitch. So you should have a total of 12 stitches at the end of this round. For round 3, we will first 1 single crochet. We'll place our stitch marker at the beginning of this round, then increase, and we will repeat this sequence 6 times around. So 1 single crochet, then increase, 1 single crochet, then increase, 1 single crochet, and then increase, 1 single crochet, and then increase, and then 1 single crochet, and then the final increase. So you should have a total of 18 stitches at the end of this round. For round 4, we are going to start with 1 single crochet. We'll mark our first stitch with our stitch marker, then increase, then 2 single crochet, then an increase, and we'll repeat that same sequence 5 times around. So we've got 2 single crochet and then an increase, 2 single crochet, and then an increase, 2 single crochet, and then an increase, 2 single crochet, and then an increase, and then we'll finish the round with 1 single crochet, and we'll have a total of 24 stitches at the completion of this round. For round 5, we will start with 3 single crochet, so 1, 2, 3, and then an increase, and then we'll repeat the same sequence 6 times around. So 1, 2, 3, and then an increase, and then 1, 2, 3, and then increase, then 1, 2, 3, and then increase, then 1, 2, 3, then increase, and then 1, 2, 3, and then increase. You should have a total of 30 stitches at the completion of this round. For round 6, we will be crocheting a single crochet in each back loop of the stitches. So 1 single crochet, we'll place our stitch marker here, and make sure that you're crocheting each of your single crochets in the back loops only. This is the back loop that is the loop the farthest from your hook. So continue crocheting each single crochet in the back loops of each stitch. And at the completion of this round, you will have a total of 30 stitches. For rounds 7 through 12, you will be crocheting 30 single crochets or a single crochet in each stitch around. This is for a total of 6 rounds, and you should have a completed 30 stitches at the end of each round. So I'm going to go ahead and crochet rounds 7 through 12, and then I will meet you back at round 13 once you've completed 6 of your total rounds. You now should have completed round 12 of your pot, so you'll have 6 total rounds of the single crochets like I mentioned, so we'll go ahead and move on to round 13, which in this round we are going to be crocheting in the front loops only of the stitches, which is the loop closest to your hook, and you'll be crocheting a single crochet in each of the front loops. So you'll have a total of 30 single crochets or a total of 30 stitches at the end of this round. For round 14, which is the final round of the pot, we will be crocheting in the back loops only of this round, and we will be crocheting 30 single crochets or single crochet in each back loop only around. So at the completion of this round, you should have a total of 30 stitches. We have now completed round 14, so we can go ahead and fasten off our yarn. So after you cut your yarn, we will be fastening off with a technique called the invisible stitch. With your yarn needle and your yarn, go ahead and thread your yarn through the yarn needle. And taking your yarn needle, skip one stitch and insert your yarn needle into the second stitch from the last completed stitch, pulling the yarn through both loops of this stitch. Then insert your needle through the back loop of the final stitch of the round, pulling tight until your yarn resembles a stitch in the round. You can then go ahead and weave in your end inside the pot because this yarn tail will be hidden when we stuff our pot at a later step. For the final step in this round, taking a round wooden circle, which I found this on Amazon. If you don't have a wooden circle, you can also cut one out with cardboard, but go ahead and place this in the bottom of the pot, fitting it perfectly at the bottom. This just adds a little bit of stability to your pot and creates a flat surface for when we stuff our pot at a later step. Next, we are going to move on to our facial details. So for this step in the pattern, you will need your safety eyes, a yarn needle, your black crochet thread, and then also your light mauve or pink color yarn. First, we will be inserting the safety eyes into our pot, which we will be inserting our safety eyes between rounds 9 and 10 of the pot, about 4 to 5 stitches apart. And definitely make sure you check the placement of your safety eyes prior to putting the backs on the eyes. You can kind of shift them around and put them exactly where you like them. So this is about where they should look on your pot. You can see we have about 4 to 5 stitches apart. But I think I'm going to go ahead and move my eyes over slightly a bit so that way the invisible stitch in the back of my pot is centered in the middle between my eyes. You can also wait to put the backs of your safety eyes on until you've embroidered all the facial details, but I am happy where my eyes are placed, so I'm going to go ahead and stick the backs onto my eyes. Moving on to the mouth and the eyebrows portion of our facial details, we'll be using our yarn needle and black crochet thread. We will first be embroidering our mouth at round 8, centered between and just below each of the eyes. So taking our yarn needle, we'll go ahead and first insert our hook from the inside of the pot through our stitch where we'd like to start our mouth. Then we will insert our needle a couple stitches over, about 2 to 3 stitches. And you can make sure that we're centered here. Go ahead and push the needle through the pot. Before pulling our yarn needle all the way through, shape your smile how you would like it. We'll insert our yarn needle back through a stitch in a row just below, inserting back through the same stitch to secure around our mouth. And here we have our lovely formed smiley mouth. Next, for our eyebrows, we will continue using the same black thread, and we will be crocheting our eyebrows at round 11 at a slight angle above the eye. So we will go ahead and first pull our yarn needle through inside the pot to the outside, and each eyebrow we will embroider about 1 to 2 stitches. And we'll go ahead and do the same for the other side of the eye, and just make sure while you are embroidering the eyebrows that you are making sure they look even once you're completed. If you need to fix them, you can definitely pull out the embroidery thread and restart. But everything looks even here to me, so I'm going to go ahead and fasten off the black embroidery thread and go ahead and tie this off inside of the pot. Next, we'll move on to the blush, and we'll be using the light mauve or a pink color yarn and our yarn needle. We will be embroidering the blush under each eye at rounds between 7 and 8. So we'll insert our yarn needle into the pot, and we will insert the yarn needle into the stitch that we'd like to start the first set of blush. And I usually embroider the blush about 1 to 2 stitches apart from the beginning point to the end point. And then once we move on to the other side of the blush, just make sure before you fasten off that it looks even and it is exactly where you want it to be. All right, well, we are all done with the facial details. I think everything looks even and it looks great. So I'm going to go ahead and fasten off the pink color yarn and go ahead and hide the tails inside the pot, and we'll move on to the soil portion of the pattern. Before we start crocheting the soil, I find that it's easiest to crochet the soil when we flip down the top portion of the pot. We'll be crocheting round 1 of the soil in the back loop only stitches left from round 13 of the pot, which are all of these little stitches right here that we have left over. So we'll be crocheting all of our stitches in round 1 in these back loops. So with our mahogany yarn and our crochet hook, we will first join to the first back loop only stitch from round 13 of the pot. So we'll go ahead and insert our hook into that first back loop only stitch with a slip stitch. Then chain 1, and then 1 single crochet in the same stitch as the join. We will continue crocheting this round in the back loop only stitches from round 13 of the pot. You'll be crocheting 30 single crochets or a single crochet in each of the back loops. At the completion of this round, you'll have a total of 30 stitches. And just to note here, we are not counting the beginning slip stitch in the join as a stitch. So if you are counting 31 stitches, that is why we are not counting that first slip stitch as a stitch. For round 2, we will first start with 3 single crochets. So 1, we'll place a stitch marker here to mark the beginning of our round. 2, 3, and then we will do an invisible decrease. We will repeat this sequence around a total of 6 times. And then at the completion of this round, you should have a total of 24 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, invisible decrease, 1, 2, 3, invisible decrease, 1, 2, 3, invisible decrease, then 1, 2, 3, and then invisible decrease. For round 3, we will start with 1 single crochet. Go ahead and mark our first stitch with our stitch marker. Then we will invisible decrease. And then we will 2 single crochet. 1, 2, and then invisible decrease. You'll repeat this same sequence 5 times around. Just going to fix that invisible decrease there. So 1, 2, invisible decrease, 1, 2, invisible decrease, 1, 2, invisible decrease, 1, 2, invisible decrease, and then we will finish this round with 1 single crochet. You should have a total of 18 stitches at the completion of this round. We're going to go ahead and pause here and start stuffing our piece. I recommend taking small pieces of the polyfill stuffing, first pushing the stuffing to the outside of the pot, gradually working to the center of the pot. This just helps to create an even and uniform look for your stuffing without making it so that you have lumpy or bumpy spots in certain areas. It just creates an overall professional looking piece. So we'll go ahead and continue taking these small bits of stuffing, and we can continue stuffing as we crochet, but I like to pause here when we have a little bit bigger of an opening to add our stuffing to our little plant. We are now going to continue on to round 4 of our soil. We are first going to start with 1 single crochet. And then taking our stitch marker, we'll mark the first stitch of this round. Next, we will crochet an invisible decrease. And you'll repeat the same sequence 6 times around. So 1, invisible decrease, 1, invisible decrease, 1, invisible decrease, 1, invisible decrease, 1, invisible decrease. At the completion of this round, you should have a total of 12 stitches. I'm just going to pause here again and add a little bit more stuffing before we finish the final round of our soil. It's just feeling like it needs a little bit more stuffing at the top. Alright, so I think I've got the stuffing where I want it and it seems firm enough. So we're going to go ahead and move on to round 5 of the soil. We're first going to invisible decrease, and you will invisible decrease 6 times around for a total of 6 stitches. So another invisible decrease, invisible decrease, invisible decrease, invisible decrease. And then we're going to pause here before we finish our last invisible decrease. We're going to change the color of our yarn to the fern color. So we'll first start by crocheting our invisible decrease, yarn over and pulling the yarn through the first 2 front loops of the stitch. Then we will go ahead and grab our yarn to color change, yarning over and pulling it through the 2 loops on our hook. We are now ready to move on to the stem portion of the pattern. For the stem, we are going to be crocheting using the fern color yarn and our crochet hook. So starting with round 1, we will first start with a single crochet. Then we will invisible decrease, and we'll repeat this sequence 2 times. So another 1 single crochet, and then our last invisible decrease. You'll have a total of 4 stitches at the completion of this round. After completing this round, we can go ahead and fasten off our mahogany yarn. I typically like to tie off the 2 yarn tails of the fern and the mahogany, and then I use a chopstick or a wooden stick to push down the knot into the pot instead of weaving in the end. You can also take a yarn needle to weave in these ends, but I just find it's easiest to take my little wooden stick and push this yarn through the opening of the stem. For rounds 2 to 3 of the stem, you'll be crocheting a single crochet in each stitch around, or a total of 4 single crochets. Each round will have a completed number of 4 stitches at the end of each round. Now I will say this can be a little complicated crocheting the stem here just because it is such a small opening. So take these 2 rounds slow and steady, making sure that you are crocheting into the proper stitch and not accidentally crocheting into just one loop or multiple stitches at one time. Once you have completed round 4, you can go ahead and fasten off the yarn. Using your yarn needle, you will take the tail and weave through the remaining front loops of the remaining 4 stitches. Then pull the tail tight to close and weave in the end. Once you have finished the stem, you can go ahead and flip up the lip of the pot and shape your piece. You have now completed your stem, and we can go ahead and move on to crocheting our leaves. For the leaves, we will be crocheting each leaf into the left and right side of the stem, and this will be between rounds 2 to 3 of the stem. So starting round 1 of the leaves, first insert your hook in between round 2 to 3 of the stem. Then you'll join with a slip stitch using the fern color yarn, pulling the yarn through the stem. Continuing for round 1, starting in the same stitch as the join, you will chain 7. Then you will start by crocheting in the second back bump from the hook, 1 single crochet. Then you will crochet 4 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then crochet 1 single crochet in that last back bump. You will then continue on to the opposite side of the chain, starting with 1 single crochet. Then 4 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finish with 1 slip stitch. You should have a total of 12 stitches. You have now completed crocheting your leaf, so you can go ahead and fasten off your yarn, and we will weave in our ends. Using the yarn needle, we'll go ahead and thread our yarn through our remaining yarn tail. I find it easiest to weave the yarn tail from the top of the leaf on the back side of the leaf through the stitches until you reach the stem. And once you reach the stem, I like to weave the tail into the inside of the pot. It just makes it easier to hide the yarn tail inside the pot. So I'll take that first yarn tail and we'll weave it into the pot, and then I will weave the beginning yarn tail into the pot as well. Once I weave both yarn tails into the pot, I like to tie off the ends and then hide the knot inside of the pot. I find it easiest using my wooden stick to push the yarn tail to hide it inside the pot. We have now completed our first leaf, so we can go ahead and move on to crocheting our second leaf using the same steps as the first leaf. The only difference is you will be inserting your hook on the opposite side of the stem, so that way you have one leaf on the right side of the stem and one leaf on the left side of the stem. If you need to, you can go ahead and play back the instructions for the first leaf we crocheted for the second leaf. We now have completed our mini sprout buddy, so congratulations on following this tutorial, and I hope that you had so much fun creating your cute little sprout buddy. If you have any questions regarding this pattern, feel free to reach out to me at www.squibblescrochetcorner.com or help@squibblescrochetcorner.com. You can find the full written free pattern on my blog, and you can also find a free copy of the PDF version of this pattern if you sign up for my email list. This is the first time I'm offering a free PDF of this pattern, so definitely check out the links below in the description if you are interested in a written copy of this pattern. But again, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope that you all have a great week, and as always, happy crocheting. Bye everyone.